Pleasant good morning and welcome to this press conference by the National Bus Association. Today we have a panel of two. To my immediate left, we have Garth Woodruff, the Vice President of the Grand Anse Bus Association and the President of the National Bus Association. And to his left, we have Mr. Derrick Mackenzie, the President of the Grand Anse Bus Association and PRO of the National Bus Association. Hosted by me, Mr. Sheldon Noel, Acting President of the St. Paul's Bus Association and the Vice President of the National Bus Association. There have been many conversations surrounding the resumption and the lack thereof, the public bus system, which is individually and privately owned, but controlled by the powers that be. So today, we are here to clear the air on a number of those issues. To the general public, you can send your questions via the Grand Anse Bus Association Facebook page. We start this press conference with an address by our national president, Mr. Garth Woodruff, followed by questions from the various media houses who took the time to be here with us today. Mr. Woodruff.
Thank you very much, Sheldon, and a pleasant good morning to everyone across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. My name is Garth Woodruff. As introduced earlier on, Mr. Sheldon Noel, the Vice President of the St. Paul's Bus Association, and to my left, the President of Grand Anse Bus Association, Mr. Derrick Mackenzie, and also the PRO of the National Bus Association. Now, as Sheldon said, we are here today to clear the air as to and answer as many questions as we possibly can in regarding the resumption of public transportation to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. But first, I would like to say thank you to the guys that have rallied behind us, supported us, and showed unwavering support to the executive of the National Bus Association and all the individual associations across the island. So to the number 1 guys on Grand Anse, I say thank you. To the number 2 guys in St. David's, I say thank you. To the number 3 guys in Marianne, Monjalou, and Richmond Hill, I say thank you. To the number 4 guys, St. Paul's, Pedmota, Vincent's, Mardi Gras, Old Wester Hall, I say thank you. To the guys on number 5, Guave, Victoria, and Sotiers, I say thank you. To the guys on number 6, Mr. Abraham Monroe, your president, stand behind him. We say thank you. To the guys on number 7, Mr. John Andrews, Glenroy Gray, we say thank you to all of you who have supported us. To number 8, Mr. Marcus Edwards and the newly elected president, we say thank you to all the guys who have stood and supported us along this journey. To number 9, Grenville, Telescope, Munich, Mount Rose, and all the surrounding villages across the big parish and St. Patrick's, I say thank you. And to our brothers in Carriacou on the number 10 route, we say thank you for your support along this journey and through these hard times that we are in right now. Now, I know that we have been through some hard times. Many of us have struggled along the way to support our families. Some of us, we did not have anything at certain points throughout the period. Busmen supported busmen, and that is that. Busmen supported busmen. We held together and we'll continue to unite and build a better National Bus Association and build better individual associations across Grenada. That is the aim of the National Bus Association, and we will lend our support as best as we can to improve the service that we give to you, the public of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. We are an organization, and just as many other organizations, that we have seen in our society, there will be shortfalls and shortcomings. What is important is that we fix those issues, identify those issues, prioritize those issues, because the service that we provide is to the public, and we have to support our operators, our owners, and our conductors. We have to find new ways to improve what we do for a living, but we also need the public's support. So there will be shortcomings in any organization, but we are here to deal with it. There was nobody to speak up for us before, but there are people now. We have representatives now. Send us your questions on Facebook. Send us your questions via our WhatsApp 410-7011, and we'll be ready to answer. Now allow me to take you through some of the events that has taken place before COVID-19 to present. On the 19th of March at 10:45 a.m., we had a Zoom meeting with a team comprising of numerous government ministries, private and public stakeholders of individual industries across Grenada. We all shared our views on the impact we were seeing then as to what was taking place, if we were seeing a lot of traffic, the state of our businesses, and so on. We chatted and spoke about a way forward and how we were going to deal with COVID-19 if it had reached Grenada's shores. We also spoke about ways and methods that we can use after, during COVID-19. On the 23rd of March, we met with Ministry of Works and updated them officially on the impact COVID-19 was having on our industry. We suggested numerous ideas, came genuinely from our hearts as to what we think can work. Remember, who feels it knows it. And in order to solve it, you need to hear from who feels it. We mentioned safety protocols. We spoke about collaborating with the RGPF, cleaning companies. We also spoke about movement of essential personnel. We shared financial information. We spoke about ideas about sinks and pipes and sanitation stuff at the bus terminal. We spoke about the sustainability of our industry, the transportation industry. Stuff like gas rebates. At the time, we did not know that what the future was going to hold. We spoke about the seating capacity. We spoke about discounts at the terminal or even waiving the terminal fees and many other stuff. This was the first and only time at that meeting in which we had waited quite a while before the start, to my recollection. And the Honorable Gregory Bowen came to the meeting. He stayed there for about 5 to 10 minutes. And that was the only time we spoke to the Honorable Minister. We were supposed to get updates and so on moving forward. Now at this point, I would like to note that on the 22nd of March, the Grand Anse Bus Association and its executives pulled its members off the road. At the time, our mission was safety. Safety for you, the Grenadian people, safety for our members, and anybody else who was willing to join the association at the time. We purchased spray bottles. We purchased three cases of alcohol so that we can start sanitizing our buses and operating our in-house cleaning protocol. We shared our ideas with the government and its representatives at the time. from that meeting, the main purpose of that meeting was to seek assistance, because it was not something that was sustainable for us, the Grand Anse Bus Association, right? This is an association that has recently revamped itself, and in our financial state, it was not feasible for us to continue the supply of sanitizers to everyone. I must say thank you, because we did get some form of assistance. However, the manner in which it was done, we did not really appreciate it. Our members were off the road. Yes, we negotiated for everyone. Only to learn on that same day, when we drove over to the terminal, we saw hand sanitizers being distributed by the bottle, 1 bottle per day. 1 bottle, as I would say, as we were told, it's a one-time supply, right? We had to call back one of the persons from who we met with to ask, can you save some for the members of the Grand Anse Bus Association? Please, can you save some? Our follow-up meeting on the 24th of March, we had with the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and others to get an update on our previous meetings, right? And as I said before, we were told in that meeting that the sanitizers were only going to be given to us on a one-time basis. From then, I believe we had our first case soon after, a few days after, subject to correction, and the entire industry took a full spin. The state of the country took a spin. On the 26th and 27th of March, members from our various associations were called out. Note well, called out to assist in the transportation of essential personnel across the island, and also nurses in the different clinics across the island. Our PRO, Mr. Derrick Mackenzie, was the one assisting government in locating buses and assigning them to the respective routes based on the addresses of the different drivers. So we would have had drivers coming in from Sauterres, Grand Anse, St. David's, Guave, and so on, even to the depth of Tivoli and Mont Long and so on. We covered the entire country. Busmen, the minority, as some people say, we did it with little or no recognition. We did it. We did it without asking for pay, because we saw it as our role in the crisis that our country was going through at the time. But eventually, as the financial burden started to weigh heavy on our shoulders, and to the guys that we are representing here today, as the financial burden started to weigh heavy on them, we had drivers getting tickets for defective tires, but no tire shops were open. We had guys having to hide with mechanics to change their brakes. No mechanic shops were open. We had to hide to purchase little spare parts for our buses, just to make sure that our service to the essential workers was maintained, in which I would say, in my judgment, a job well done. We asked on what we were going to be paid and when we were going to be paid. We were told to submit invoices every week, and so we did. The end of April came, and may I state that These prices were negotiated with members from the Ministry of Health under the guidance of the Permanent Secretary and management at the General Hospital. That is who we negotiated with, government representatives. The end of April came, nothing. Gas prices at the time, on the 18th of April, we know gas prices changed to $11, right? But before that, we were working same way. Let me give you some details. We did 6 trips a day. 1 in, 1 out in the morning, 1 in, 1 out in the evening, at the afternoon, sorry, and 1 in, 1 out at the evening time. This is a lot of work, honestly. As a driver, and I remember I said earlier on, who feels it knows it. As a driver, this was a hard job. We had to stay away from our families. The job was offered to many, I must say. Men were afraid to do it. Nobody don't want to get the thing, boy. That's what he was saying. Just like that. Boy, you on this hospital work. I ain't taking it. So to the brave guys who came out and supported Grenada in a crisis, I would say again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You did a good job and you served your country well. We were then asked for a list of 30 buses. The PRO had asked us, to maybe more buses need work, so let's see how best we can get some jobs going for the busmen who are home. Remember, we have approximately 1,400 buses in Grenada. So we sought to get jobs for as many as we could. The guys, however, who we had submitted from that 30 list, they were called, offered the job. They got back to us and told us that, isn't it the same job you're doing? That is what they are calling me for. So in principle and respect, some of the guys declined. And in the business aspect, the price that was being offered, it was just in no way close to what the expenses of doing such a job would be. The drivers, what we call the backup drivers, that's the guys who would have helped the contracted drivers at the hospital. These guys were heroes. I would call them heroes for the job that they did. But we did not know that the price that was being offered to the list of guys from that 30 list that we submitted was also the price that we would now be forced to accept. I will tell you, from our expenses, it was in no way close to the expenses it took to carry out such an operation. That was the end of the story, more or less, in the dishonorable treatment. Bus drivers, conductors, not conductors at the time, there were no conductors, owners got for their services rendered. To date, there are a few guys who have not collected their checks. May I show you? On one of the papers here, this posed a problem because in being sympathetic with the representatives from the Ministry of Health at the time, we sought payment plans because we had already agreed on a price. We sought for payment plans and so on. It says here, I hereby certify that there is no outstanding amount owed by the government of Grenada for any services provided to the government during the period. This means that the little that they were offering was to be considered a one-time payment. Keep in mind, this is 2 months in. 2 months in. So this was for a period of 2 months. I'll give you some insight. The average bus, at least for St. George's, put in about $170 down to $130 gas every other day. The buses from Guave and other countries filled up every day. The price that we were offered and the price that they were forced to accept was for the local buses, $17, $17 per trip. The guys from Sautiers who did that 6 trips from Sautiers to town, $23 per trip. I can call their names and number plates because we worked so close together. I felt the need to stand up. We went to the ministry. We spoke with the representatives. We were told that we were going to be given an answer on Monday on the way forward, and we still continued our service until we were recently terminated. That is the end of that section. Any questions regarding to the hospital, you can direct it to the PRO, Derrick Mackenzie, since he was the one doing all the negotiations and coordination at the time from the birth. Now, fast forward to the 23rd of May, 2020. We were contacted by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Transport to start negotiations, or to have discussions, I should say. Discussions on the resumption of public transportation. The resumption of public transportation. We had representatives from different entities or different sectors. We had the Royal Grenada Police Force representatives there, right? The traffic department that was there. Different members from the government ministries was there. The relevant ministries was there at that meeting. The environment and the vibe of the meeting was great. The ideas that they presented to us, we also shared the same ideas, but we had more. Since we are the ones who are in it, we know the business. So we gave those, and they loved it. There was a good old, negotiation, conversation taking place. Allow me to shed some light on what was discussed. We spoke about rotation of buses, especially for buses like Grand Anse and St. David's, which would have over 250 buses along their route. So you would have a bus A and a bus B. I have a demo of the stickers here. The Grand Anse Association and the National Bus Association footed the bill and took the initiative to print these to show our good faith and our willingness to work with the government of Grenada to establish a sustainable system for the members and a proper transportation system for the public. We did this, our cost, our design, and it was done fast. We have an excellent team. The rotation of the buses was agreed and welcomed by everyone. Supply and distribution of sanitizers. Now, let me state that a gallon of sanitizer is about 146. Sheldon, is it 146 for a gallon of sanitizer? Roughly. Down to the bottle, we saw an increase in the cost of sanitizers. Lo and behold, $34 a bottle now. An increase, $34 a bottle. I'll get back to that shortly on the increase. We spoke about gas rebates. We spoke about tax breaks. Remember, Sheldon stated it earlier, buses in Grenada are privately owned. It's a private investment. Our hands cannot be tied as to what we can charge and what we cannot charge based on the supply and demand afforded to us. So under the COVID-19 regulations, which limited the amount of passengers that we could have carried, we sought these different ideas. waiving conductor permits, since on there they had suggested that it would be mandatory for conductors to be on each bus, right? We solved that issue. We came up to a conclusion because the number 3, the number 6, and some of the number 1 routes, they don't operate, and the number 6, they don't operate with conductors. It's just not viable. So now we were going to be forced to operate with a conductor, to pay a conductor for a full day while carrying less passengers, with our regular expenses and coming from some serious financially hard times. We spoke about the seating arrangements. Charts would have been displayed in the buses as to how persons would be seated. We spoke about a police hotline for support, because we know everyone does not want to comply with the busman. Official amendments to the COVID-19 regulations as it regarded to seating capacity. Now I'll stop right here. I was sent this document via email, as we spoke about in negotiations. There is no letterhead. No one signed it. No one signed. I don't know if it's to consider it official or not, but it is titled Guidelines for the Operation and Use of Public Transportation. So I sought to read through the document. It spoke about sanitation and the operation of buses, and there was some detail. But what caught my attention here was that when it came to buses, a maximum of 10 passengers will be allowed in any one instance using a 3 to 2 seating formation commencing from the back row. That is 3 passengers commencing from the back row, followed by 2 passengers in the immediate row ahead, and continuing in such a pattern. Number 2, in the row with the conductor, only 1 other passenger is allowed. Number 3, 1 passenger is allowed at the extreme end of the driver's row. Now, we asked for this COVID-19 regulation to be displayed to the public so we can make it official, because sometimes we know, again, not all organizations function effectively and there will be shortcomings. Let me show you a shortcoming here. We asked for the regulation to be circulated, and it says here, I will quote, by repealing sub-regulation 2 and substituting, therefore, the following new sub-regulations. No person shall offer for hire or seek to travel in any motor omnibus, hiring car, or taxi, unless at all times there is at least 1 vacant seat between any 2 persons in each row of seats of the motor omnibus, hiring car, or taxi, as the case may be. This was sent to us on the 27th of May, gazetted on the 27th of May, 2020. Let me show you what the seating arrangements of a bus is like. This is for what we would call the mid-roof, the high roof. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 seats in the back, 4 seats, 4 seats, 4 seats. Driver and the passenger in front, sorry. So if we were to follow the regulation that was gazetted on the 27th of May, we would have 1 passenger here, a seat apart, 1 passenger here, a seat apart. This says basically that no shoulder-to-shoulder contact, which leads you to 2 persons in each row. So let's do some quick maths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you have a conductor, it's going to be 1. Does that amount to 10 passengers? No. It doesn't. What were we being led into if the National Bus Association was not organized and vigilant? I hope you understand it. I can email this to anyone, request it via the Facebook page. Full transparency. I am always open to questions. Again, 410-7011. Call us, send us a message. Let us know how we can improve the service that we provide to you. Now, continuing along the list of stuff of ideas that we put out, the 50-cent increase. I believe that the narrative was shifted. And in the meeting that we had, let me get the date right, on the 25th of May, we were awaiting a call. We were awaiting a call from, I don't know who. We were awaiting a call. That call was supposed to tell us if we were going to get any form of assistance from the government of Grenada. As I would share with you, in most other countries in the region, private transportation is subsidized. It is subsidized. The reason there is not government transport is because the cost is enormous. And in most times, you'll bus. Is bus is a bus business in a way, if you put it like that. The way we make it is we support each other. No. We were awaiting this call. In that meeting, the call came. And I'll never forget these words, because myself, Carl, Sheldon, Derrick, and all the representatives, the presidents from all the other zones were on that call. And the words were, the government of Grenada is not in a position to assist the bus association with anything right now. Silence loomed in the chat, on the video calls. We started now trying to justify why we need an increase. When was the last time we had an increase? And while I'm there, let me just stick a pin. I shall correct myself. In 2002, the government of Grenada and the National Bus Association signed a memorandum of understanding for which the bus price was supposed to be reviewed every 2 years. From 2002 to 2004, we know we had Hurricane Ivan. So that pushed that negotiation back to 2005. So it was in 2005 we had our last increase. 2005, 15 years ago. 15 years. All you count it. Bread go up. Gas go up. Tire go up. Insurance go up. Cost of bus go up. A bus was about 78,000, 100,000, then 155,000. Everything went up. KFC went up. Just name it. It go up. Everything went up. But bus price remained the same. And that is why busing. Look at the banks. They didn't want to see busmen. Look at the credit unions. Some of them don't want to see busmen. Check the statistics. Almost half of the buses in Grenada are in arrears. Why? We are not being subsidized, and there is no concession or anything that is given to us. So right now, given the current situation, we propose that 50 cents because it would help immediately with the financial loss that we would face. Since under the regulations, we would have to carry less passengers. And under this regulation here, it's really 8 passengers. That's more than a 50% cut each trip. I hope we can fix this. I must say that the National Bus Association, myself, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Noel, and all the other executives, we are here to partner and fix this, not to bash anybody or not to take a side. We are an industry that needs to be heard and needs to be identified as a significant pillar of this economy. Our voices need to be heard. We also spoke about the law in which somebody from the National Bus Association is supposed to have a seat on the transport board to seek the interests of transport, national transport, busmen, bus operators, conductors. We even sent recommendations back in September for a subsidiary board so that we can manage the drivers and conductors. You know, we have a vision here. We have a vision here. I can tell you more, but we need to move on to the meat of the matter. So I touched on the last time we had an increase was 2005 and everything went up. It seems to me like every other business could increase their prices as they see fit, demand and supply. But no, for the minority busmen, bus operators, bus owners, bus conductors, there's about 3,800 of us. When you do the maths, 3,800 families affected indirectly and directly. We have 100,000 people in Grenada. Do the maths. That's a significant, that's enough people that's being affected for something to be done. We need something to be done. Please, we need something to be done. This is not the time for politics and shifting the narratives and all the games that normally happens across the different social media platforms and all these type of things. This is serious business here. I have a daughter in which I love. We have kids and families. They made sacrifices. They need to be taken care of. No. Why were we being ignored for all these years? I must say, busmen has to take some responsibility because a lot of the associations became dormant due to the pressure we was under. Now, as it relates again to the price increase, remember this. The last time we had an increase was in 2005. Everything went up then. And now we are forced to carry less passengers while facing the same expenses that we were facing. There are buses in the backyard right now. Nobody even wants to buy them. So some of you may ask, why no? This is not the right time to put up the price. We understand. We hear you. Believe me, we hear you. But this is something that is necessary because there will be no buses if we were to continue like this. Is it the time? Is it the time to increase our operational expenses? Is it the time, especially coming from a place where few of us had received the stimulus package at the time? Is it the time to operate at a loss? I call it financial suicide, sorry. It is financial suicide. So, I mean, shift perspective here and understand where we are coming from. I've heard words of greedy and the disrespectful and stuff like that. We are not disrespectful. We came, we reached out, we had ideas. We pushed it out there. Hey, let's talk. There's no disrespect here. We are trying to partner and work to build a better public transportation system. That is all we're trying to do. That is all we're trying to do. And it is genuine. We also printed those A and B stickers and delivered some of them to the Royal Grenada Police Force. We have been working. We have been negotiating with persons to sanitize buses. We have been negotiating with persons and trying to partner with companies to supply us with sanitizers. We estimated that it's going to take about 6 barrels of sanitizers to get to serve all the buses in Grenada. We did our work. We did our work and we will continue doing our work, but we need assistance. Yes, we are not organized, as some people may say, but help us organize. Aren't we Grenadians too? Love us, support us. Aren't we Grenadians too? Aren't we Grenadians too? We took your children to school. We brought some of you to school. We did it all. Bus has been operating privately. We did it. Now to the bus operators across the various zones. Again, I would make a clarion call to you. This is for you. What myself and the various presidents are doing is for you, member or non-member. So I have one announcement to make. Moving forward, coming out of the COVID-19 times, registration fee for the various associations will be waived. So you can now register with your various associations for free. We need you on board. We need your ideas. We need your support. We need to hear you out. Stand with us, unite with us, and let us build our industry. Bus operators, bus owners, bus conductors, stand with us. And let us fix the system. Many were afraid to take up this mantle, but the brave few, we did it. And we are here to serve you, and we are here to secure you. That is my message to the bus operators, owners, and conductors. I know there were many things said about a few of us. Follow successful men, and you are guaranteed to achieve success. Know who you are following. That is all I have. And I must say thank you to the team here for assisting us in bringing this press conference live to you. We are open for questions.
So thank you, our national president, Mr. Woodruff, for your address. So to the members of the media, the panel, we're now open for questions. So I see Christina John.
Hi, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. My question to Mr. Woodruff would be, and I think that's the question on many persons' mind, would there be bus operating from tomorrow? Because we know today is our holiday. People are concerned as to whether you would be on the road tomorrow.
I will start on addressing tomorrow by saying that we have a meeting with government representatives tomorrow, and we are hoping to have good news from that meeting. I pray we have good news. We want to get back out to work. We really, really want to. Some guys had their cries, and we had to let them go out to work. because everyone has a different financial situation. So for tomorrow, we are asking all buses show a stand of unity, and we will stay home.
Thank you, Christina. I see Mikey, and then we have Sherry.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen. Well, upon the announcement by Mr. Woodruff a couple seconds ago, that changes the dynamic of things. So there's a meeting with the government tomorrow. Do you see this press conference as having a possibility of aggravating whatever intentions would have been coming out of tomorrow's meeting, or whatever intention there would have been on the part of the government for the benefit of the bus drivers?
Our intentions here are definitely not to aggravate anyone. I don't see why it would be aggravating. We are just letting our voices be heard and sending a message out to the public and everyone and all the stakeholders of what our intentions are. I can repeat, our intentions are to partner to establish a proper transportation system adhering to the COVID-19 regulations, right? And to make sure that it's feasible for our members and the public safety at hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if I may follow up. So in your last conversation with officials, what decision was made? What was happening then that would have necessitated this press conference this morning?
Sorry. This press conference was planned way before, because we wanted to reach out to the public so that they can hear what our cry was, and we also wanted to have feedback on what they thought about the 50-cent increase. All right. The last part, could you repeat the last part of your question? There's a part that I need to answer.
Yeah, so I was just trying to figure out, since your last conversation with the stakeholders, with the government and so on, what would have led you to decide to have this press conference with this attitude? And when I say attitude, in terms of the need, feeling the need to come out in the manner that you did this morning.
I hope the manner in which I came out was not considered disrespectful. I just had to read and deliver a message. So I want to just make that clear. The manner, if it has been misunderstood, it is a genuine, heartfelt message to everyone and all the stakeholders. And as I said, this press conference was planned way before so that our voices and our story could be told. All right. Now we have a meeting. The last conversation that we had, it was to schedule a meeting for Tuesday. All right. Now we would have liked to be on the road, as I said, but we decided through the executive, we decided that it would be best to show our unity and stand our ground. And once a concrete decision is made, then we can proceed to have the buses go out and know that everyone is safe and to know that we did our part.
Okay, and when I say manner, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about the passion, because I see that you guys are very passionate in what you do, and I know that, as you're saying, rightfully, who feels it knows it is unacceptable for 15 years to not have a raise for any industry. If my boss doesn't give me a raise in 10 years, I'm gone. You know, so we understand it. Manner meaning the passion, what would have led you to the passion, but you have explained that. My final question for this round is, in terms of the 50%. The 50 cents increase, right? What measuring tool, or how did you measure that 50 cents? Because one would say that a 50% increase for a Grand Anse bus driver, for example, is different from a 50 cents increase for a Sutter's bus driver.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that, Mikey, because I'll be very honest with you. Initially, and if you looked at other countries in the region, right? I'll just start there. I think Barbados had a price increase last year of 75%, That's $1.50 that was put onto their transportation fee. Now, from our calculations here, we saw that it has to be about $1.50 based on what we're seeing. But we considered, we considered the times that we are in, and we said we will go with 50 cents across the board. All the presidents agreed with it, and we decided that that's where we would go.
All right, thank you, Mikey. We know Sherry-Ann.
Good morning. I have a few questions. Gat would have said a lot, but I want to go back a bit to the beginning where you spoke to the whole issue of the very important services offered in the early stages with frontline and essential workers and so on. I am trying to understand if you did not sign a particular document, because based on what you're saying is that your bus operators would have worked, and after they would have worked and rendered the service, they've been given a fee. And I also would like you to clarify if when you said the $17 and the $23, if you meant $17 per person on the trip, because you just said 17 per trip and 23 per trip. So you clarify that aspect for me first, and then I have another question to ask.
Okay, so it is $17 per trip, not per person, per trip. Meaning you go from Sautiers, or let's say from Grand Anse, or whichever part you do your route, and you get paid $17. That's below what the short job for a taxi price is. All right. Now, what was the first part of your question?
I was asking if you did not sign off, whosoever did the negotiation in terms of selecting the buses for the government, if you did not negotiate and sign off a contract saying this is what we would like to have. What you're saying is as if at the end of your service, you've been given a fee which you don't appreciate and you can't do anything about it.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Derrick Mackenzie. I'm the PRO of the National, and I'm the president of the Grand Anse Bus Association. There are a lot of different ways where one can do a contract. You could do a contract verbally. You can do it electronically, like with confirmation in terms of communication, in terms of WhatsApp and so on. And that's how this arrangement was made. You have to take in consideration what would have happened when we was contacted to get the buses. I would have visited the ministry 2 days in succession trying to organize. It was a lot of pressure to get that smooth flowing and to get the buses organized that we could have transported the essential workers. And when we talk about essential workers, we speak of all the people that work at the hospital. We're talking about the nurses, the orderlies, the lab techs, and everybody that was out. And at that particular time, with the arrangement with the buses, there were only 4 persons that you could carry at a time. And so I would have been there assisting. I would have taken work home, doing it all through the course of the night and coordinating some of the routes, helping out the ministry. And we didn't ask for money for that. That is service that was rendered for free. So it was a smooth coordination to do that, and the agreement was made via the persons that we was working with in the ministry, under the Ministry of Health. And when we asked about the prices, and we suggested prices that is in keeping with the price for a different route in terms of to get to the distance, right? And these were suggested prices, had to be confirmed. The ministry personnel would have said that she would have to consult the PS to get confirmation. So they would have consulted the PS and gotten back into us. And eventually I asked, is the prices confirmed? And it said, yes, the prices is confirmed. And I could go ahead and share it with the guys that actually was working. I went ahead and did that. So we know it has established via WhatsApp confirmation of the prices that was suggested. At the end of the first week, we was asked to provide invoices, which we did. We would have worked for over a month during the first instance without getting paid. So it's difficult, very difficult to operate a bus daily and having to gas up without having any take home. So what happened, the guys would have exhausted whatever like, resources that they have in the gas station. And if you guys would remember around that time, it was only one gas station. So we'd have had to be queued up in lines all up to Lamo Junction to get gas. And we are essential workers carrying the essential service workers in terms of the nurses and so on. So after you spend 2 hours by decall to get gas, and then you have to go on a midday run. So the guys have to go all up to Sauters and so on to come back, and then have to do it in the evening again. So it's 6 runs a day. And as Mr. Woodruff would have rightfully said, what would have been paid to us was just the gas money. Yeah, if you do the maths, we would have spent like $100 a day in terms of maths. So it's very easy. 30 days in a month, and multiply that by $100 for gas, and basically that's what we've been paid, right? So if you fuel up for $3,000 a month, then where is your salary? If you rent a bus, a car, you probably would pay $150, $120 for rental, but then you have to gas up for yourself. And if you can't drive, then you have to hire somebody to drive or drive it for yourself. So in this case, the government would have chartered our buses, right? And we would have to gas it up, and then we have to drive it. So if you pay us only gas money, then where is our take-home pay? And then where is the charge for the use of the bus?
So let me ask you, what was your proposal to the government? Your counteracting proposal in terms of what you want per trip?
Well, the proposal was, it varies based on the route. We had St. David's, we had Grenville, we had Sauters. So the price would have varied from like $100 based on the route, $120 and $150, and it varies based on the distance that you have to cover. And you have to rest in mind that we would have been serving 3 different institutions: Richmond Home, Monge, and the General Hospital. And not only that, you're not plying the route as regular. We do a lot of the off routes. We have to go and drop the health workers as close as possible to their houses. So you would have to go in all like holes, and some other time the road is not proper. It damages your suspension. And just imagine walking on that kind of condition, and at the time you have no mechanics and so on.
Okay, so I want to move along to Mr. Woodruff. I just want to follow through a bit on Mikey's question. You have announced a meeting for tomorrow with the government. In terms of your previous meetings, because you would have mentioned a number of dates that you all had, some sort of dialogue. In terms of takeout after the meeting and reporting and both sides submitting the pertinent information for discussion to each other, would you say that the Bus Association in a timely manner have delivered on what they are supposed to deliver to that particular team that is discussing in terms of your quest for fuel rebate, your monthly monthly costs and so forth?
Yes, I would say definitely that we have actually superseded the expectations of many, and all documents that were requested was sent in. All documents and hard copies that had to be sent in was sent in and done up. We sent in updated information on the different associations. We also have price lists and so on ready. We did, as I mentioned, took the initiative to negotiate with different stakeholders for sanitizers and to sanitize the buses and so on. And we also already had printed the rotation stickers for the various zones where needed. So we have been doing our part.
And let me just ask this for this round of questions. In terms of what the government is asking of the bus drivers in terms of they supplying a certain amount of sanitizers and so on, wasn't that enough for a start? And with you having the actual press conference tomorrow and you have one today, wouldn't you
Or
say
is a
that you would
meeting,
have,
not a press conference?
oh, sorry, the meeting, sorry, thanks for the correction. And if my colleagues can correct me, but I believe in a release from, I think it was superintendent from the traffic department or so, they showed a diagram in terms of seating. And if my memory serves me right, it said 12 for omnibuses, 10 passengers plus the drivers. I stand to be corrected. And I think 14 for coasters. But I viewed what you showed, and when you add it up, it seems as you get about 8 or so. What's the difference in those two, the one that came out from the traffic and the one that you're showing, because it creates a bit of confusion.
Imagine my confusion when I saw it. On the regulation, which is the law, which is the black and white of what the mandate of the RGPF is to follow, it says 8 persons.
But my question is,
Right?
did you see that particular slide that I am speaking of, with some green dots and some designs that shows, I think it's 12 for Omni and 14 for coasters.
Right. Yes, I have seen that. Right.
Okay.
But what I'm saying here is there is a difference. And I believe that is the question that you are asking. But so what I was showing you is what the actual regulations say. It is completely different to what the diagrams that are circulating is saying. So this could possibly wind some of the busmen into confrontation with police officers. And we do not want that.
So you need clarity on that.
Huh?
So the clarity needs to be had from the traffic
Yes,
department.
much clarity is needed here, right? And again, we are always open to discussion. We're phone calls away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharian. Anybody else on the panel has any questions? I see Kishon.
Hi, good morning. A question. Considering all that's happened, I think earlier it was mentioned that the current contractual arrangement for the essential workers would have ended on the weekend. And hence, I think the Public Workers Union would have been triggered as it relates to their workers, especially the nurses. And so with tomorrow being Tuesday, what exactly is going to happen as it relates to the transportation for the essential workers, and bearing in mind that the Form 5 students are expected out of school tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So what sort of arrangement, if any, was taken into consideration for tomorrow?
This is what we are trying to sort out. And I'll be very honest with you. A few weeks, I would say last week, in one of the meetings, we were asked, when do we see the transportation sector opening back? What date would we like it to be reopened? And we pushed on, let's get ready. Let's start preparing. Let's get to work to get it open. I am very sorry that it has to come to this, the responsibility. I do not know what arrangements is in place. My responsibility here is still to the National Bus Association, and I can only tell you what we have in place and what is happening on our end for tomorrow. But as it regards to anything else, I can't speak to that.
Thank you, Kishon. I see
Just
Sharian.
have yes, I just, in terms of some of the things that you said that you all have suggestions that you all had put forward, because you were saying that you all have very amicable discussions and so. In terms of the placement of buses and so, is that one of the suggestions that you all would have put forward to the government team, and you all have reached in terms of some of the buses in the terminus, the holding bay behind of the former Ando supermarket, and the Granby Street for Grand Anse and St. David? Is this all of the unified discussion?
I would say that plan was created by the Royal Grenada Police Force. We were briefed on it on Monday the 25th at 10 a.m. We did a walkthrough and we did again give our suggestions because remember there's a lot of buses in Grenada and a lot on Grand Anse, right? So we did give our views on that, and that's about where that ended.
So is it that y'all, in terms of the views, were your views positive, negative, and then can you share a little bit about the A and B business, how the rotation will work when you all come to that final decision?
We always try to go positive. Our aim is always to go positive, to find a positive solution. And on the A and B, as I said, where it's applicable. So you won't have, a route like Mount Morris having an A and B, right?
We have a lot of buses now, so.
Right. So we're talking about the big routes here, right?
Okay.
And also a sort of assessment needs to be done as to how much people are actually moving along your route. So then we would decide on if we should rotate or not. So there's a little bit of trial and error that needs to take place. But I can speak definitely for Grand Anse that we will definitely need rotations. The call centers are not operating anymore. A lot of the hotels are closed. The beaches, there's a limited time and so on. So we know that we will not see that same amount of people moving along the Grand Anse route. All right. So that's why we would now have buses A work one day, buses B work the other day, and so forth. Right.
Okay.
This now with the problem that is going to be solved here is the financial issue. If all were to come out, they won't not make any money. There's just too much slices of the same cake that needs to be cut. So we rather give you a reasonable slice of cake so you can eat for 2 days, as opposed to coming out on one day and get nothing.
Okay, so and before I leave, the whole issue of the mandatory conductor. I know you said that you all had back and forth discussions, but from the government side, they're saying based on the protocols for COVID, you need a conductor to sanitize the hands of passengers, to, do the necessaries. And so you're saying there are routes in the past which have experienced that don't use conductors. Mm-hmm. So the common consensus on this mandatory conductor?
The last point that we got to was that on the routes where a conductor is not really needed, I'll give you an example. Let's say number 6, right? Number 6 is mainly from town to Grenville and Grenville back to town. There isn't much villages that it passes through. And if it does pass through any villages, the number 9 route would normally cover those zones. So it goes directly to Grenville. So a conductor is not really needed. So we did speak and we shared that view. And what happened from that discussion was that we have to now come up with a solution, in which we do have one. We just have to officially tell it to them, right? A solution for the buses that will be operating without a conductor. And when I say the solution is, pay for system, sanitize and pay, and how we're going to get everybody sanitized. We brainstormed and came up with an idea. So it's just to put it on the table and see if it will be put into effect.
Okay, and finally from you said so much that everything just keep rolling back. You have the actual meeting tomorrow with the government side. Some of the proposals include rebates, fuel rebates, assistance with sanitization and so forth. Now, the government is asking that you defer the 50-cent increase until another moment. You said, based on all that you put forward, that based on the 15 years, there just might not be a right moment. Should the government give you that rebate, fuel rebate that you're asking for, and the assistance with sanitization and so, can we see a move to defer the 50 cent to a later date, or regardless of if you get the rebate and so, the 50 cent based on your calculations is definitely needed at this time?
We sent our calculations to the government. We did do that. What is needed now is to find what is going to work for the transportation industry. What will be sustainable? Remember, you spoke about the price earlier on and putting it on later. Remember, if we take a gas rebate, we may not get that rebate until the end of the month or week or maybe 5-6 weeks. So then it may be better to have, as I said in my speech, a direct injection of cash so that we can have a better cash flow. Now, as I said again, people are saying now is a bad time, but Sherry-Ann, is now the time to add additional cost on bus operators when they are forced now to carry less passengers. We will be done, busted, if that happens.
All right, thank you, Sherry-Ann. The floor is now open to Mrs. Maguire. Nancy? All right, so we will take a question from Chrislyn, sorry.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for coming over to me. I must say that there's a lot of facts, and it's really good to hear all the details of what's going on, because it allows us to be a lot more informed, a lot more aware, and able to make decisions. I have a question as it relates to, there's a lot of people now who are saying and calling for a public bus system, a public transportation system. What would you say to those people? Because that's something that's coming up a lot, especially on social media. In little areas, people are saying, let's just have a public transportation system. How does that affect what's happening now? How do you perceive that affecting how we're operating right now?
If the government cannot afford to subsidize us or give us an additional rebate or something on what is happening right now, do you think they're going to be able to invest in buses? And also note that we had a public transportation system that failed. It failed for a reason. Also note, I'm sure that if the government, right, was to buy new buses and put them on the road, I'm sure there will be concessions. I'm sure they won't pay the duties. I'm sure there'll be rebates on the gas. I'm sure there will be the same thing that we, the private bus owners, are advocating for.
Thank you, Chrislyn. Do we have any other questions from the panel? Mikey?
All right, thanks again. All right, now in negotiations, we search for some sort of middle ground, for whatever it is that we're looking for. Now, based on your presentation this morning, a lot has been asked of the bus drivers and owners. Do you get anything from those negotiations in terms of what you ask for, or do you feel like decisions are being imposed on you?
I really don't want to get into what I feel. I'll stick to what is. Decisions are being imposed on us.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Mikey, for that question. The floor is again open. Anybody on the panel?
Okay, while you wait for somebody else,
Sure.
so with the current arrangement that we have seen from last week in terms of the sanitization and so on, I know that Mr. Woodruff has been on TV talking about what they are seeing versus what was said would be done. From then to say the last day that buses worked, did you see an improvement or of any sort in the operations, in the new operations?
I personally did not see any improvement in what was happening. To be very honest with you, I am even afraid to say what I saw, but there has not been any improvement. And I should note that we pleaded and we asked, let's not rush to open back public transportation. Imagine us, the busmen, who they say are greedy, are saying, let's not rush to open it back. Let us make sure that we have a proper system in place so that when we do open, we open properly and it will be safe for everyone. Because remember, we have to learn this safety protocol. This is going to be the new way forward. Our borders will be opened soon. We don't know what is going to be coming in. So we have to get it right. And we have a little bit of time to get it right.
There is, this old saying that there's strength in numbers, and bus drivers and many other groups and associations have tried to fight for causes before that would have had a lot of energy in the beginning and faded off at some point in time. What's different about this? Do you think that your organization has the backing that it needs to apply enough pressure for your cause?
I don't see the need to apply pressure, We just need to state the facts of what is. Honestly, we just need to state the facts. We have to remember that we are all Grenadians. And if we share love and love each other and be considerate, we would see where the bus system is failing. And out of that love, something will be done to help the number of guys who are being affected right now.
All right, and going back to the strength in numbers, if I may rephrase, do you believe that you will get the support that you need from the other members of the bus associations and the other individuals to at least send that message to the government to inspire some sort of change?
I hope this message gets to the government. We are in no way against the government. We are just trying to help and make sure that our industry survives. We have had elections for the National Bus Association, which according to the Constitution, states that a member from the presidents from each of the zones are to have that election, and that was done. So all the presidents from all the different zones are on board, right? And as I said in the previous announcement, we are now, we know the times are hard, and we know there's a large number of guys who want to jump on board, and we are welcoming them right now. There is free registration to your individual bus associations. So contact the secretary, your presidents, and your representatives from the various associations. So we will have our strength. And I think we already do have our strength. And one word comes to mind: stamina.
All right, thank you, Mikey. So we have just about 10 more minutes. And we have Mrs. Maguire been waiting in the queue to ask or to make her input. Mrs. Maguire. So her question actually came in. No, Mrs. Maguire. Okay, so we have a question here for Simone. Good morning. I have a question. What would be your statement to the public as to why they should support the bus association, especially since the increase directly impacts them? Why should they support you?
Why should the public support busmen? Why do they support KFC? Why do they support supermarkets? It's a necessity in the economy. And we are also aiming to improve the service that we are providing to you. But in order to do that, the 50-cent increase, we know it's hard, but we wouldn't do this if it was not necessary. I promise you, we would not do this if it was not necessary. Our industry will fail if we do not get something, our industry will fail. And then what will happen? There'll be little to no buses running, if any. How will you get transported to where you need to go then? And I should also state in my presentation, I know I said a lot, but outside of our members and the responsibility of the interest of our members, it is also our responsibility as well to make sure that each driver association and owner is aware of the safety protocols that we are speaking of. So for the public, the support I want from you is for your own safety. Everyone needs to be sanitized. There needs to be a ready supply of sanitizers available for busmen, operators, conductors. There needs to be a ready supply so that we can protect you, so that we can do our part in preventing the spread of COVID-19 if it was to ever surface again. We have been doing a great job so far, and with public transportation, I hope we can do a far better job.
All right, thank you. It seems that Mrs. McGuire is probably having some trouble with her audio.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nancy.
Sorry about that. I don't know what was happening. You mentioned at the beginning that there's about 1,400 buses in Grenada, so that represents 3,800 families. I'm wondering how many, what is the percentage, I should say, of the representation of bus drivers and owners in all the various associations? And I know that there's bus drivers that insist on operating when they're not supposed to, according to what the National Association and the various regional associations are saying and doing together. So what is your message to those? Because I know at the end there you said you were going to waive your registration fee. And how does the association finance itself? How does it operate in these trying times?
Okay, there's a few things that you touched on there. In percentage, we would say on average, we have seen a significant increase in the amount of persons that are willing to join the association. The way we create membership and boost our membership is through representation, discounts and stuff with various entities and so on. So we make the association attractive financially, and that is the way we boost it. I would say right now, I can speak for quite a few routes. I would say nationally, we have at least 50% of the buses associated with a particular association across the zones, right? If you look in Grand Anse as well, you would see some of the buses has the Grand Anse Bus Association logo on it. Those are our members, and we plan to spread that same method across the different zones, because as you said, there are people that would break the law. There are people that would go against what we are doing. We see it across different sectors, you know. People steal, people break the law in general, right? It somehow seems to me, I get that feeling sometimes that when a busman does it, it's probably different to when somebody else does it. Now, to those guys who are out there, I can tell you from what I do know and from what I've heard, because I have reached out to them. There was one particular guy who had overcharged, and I reached out to him. I said, why? He said, bro, I have my family to feed. I haven't paid my rent in months, right? I have to charge, but there's just nobody is moving. So I have to charge $5. Right? I told them, that is against the law. I can't support you there, but what we're doing is trying to fight for you. We're trying to make sure that we get it the right way, because there is regulations that prohibits overcharging, right? I don't know why it's not even in the hands of the transportation sector to regulate their prices, with guidance from the ministers and relevant ministers. So that was the best message I could tell him, and I would tell it to any other bus operator that is out there fighting the good fight to bring income to his family, right? That we are here to fight for you, and we will welcome you with open arms, right? To try and see how best we can help you. And I must state that one of the initiatives that the busmen will be taking, stuff like conflict resolution, educating them on the law, their rights, improving the service that they provide, and these type of things. There's a long list on the way of things we can implement moving forward.
All right, so we have another question here in the chat. And so we have two questions here, and that's the final two questions for this morning. First question, what will be your response? And this question goes to Garth, sorry. What will be your response to the public who seems to think that the National Bus Association is holding the public at ransom at this time?
This live will be there online. Feel free to look at it over and over again. In no way, in any of the facts that I stated, I do not see it as we're not holding anybody ransom. We're not trying to disrespect anybody. We are standing up. Since when standing up for your industry and doing what you think is right and sustainable based on the reviews from your entire industry, since when that is considered disrespectful? Since when that is considered holding the country ransom? These discussions could have happened since March 25th. If you listened, it started back on the 23rd of May. How could we have gotten it done? We honestly couldn't.
All right, guys, so we have gotten to our 1.5 mark. I would, in closing, I'll ask our president if he has any closing remarks before I give some closing remarks and end this conference. Garth?
Again, I would like to thank everyone who made this press conference possible. The technical team, the support I got from the executives of the different associations, the presidents, friends and family. I would like to say thank you for your support, and to the public, we look forward for your support. This is also for you, for your safety. Stand behind us so we can better improve the service that we give to you. To the busmen, stand with us. This is also for you. Thank you.
All right, Derrick, anything in closing?
Yes, I would like to take the opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to all the drivers that would have supported the effort to get the East Central workers safely. We could state that at this point, there has been no incident. No one has been infected, no accidents. We did the job safe. And to the nurses, the orderlies, and we want to say thank you for putting your confidence in us, because one has to realize that when somebody step into your bus, they're making a statement that says, I trust you with my life. And to two persons in particular, that been there with us when everyone was home in the hiding. These, Ms. Humphrey and Ms. Gail Marshall, we salute you. You are the persons that we saw on the ground with us, helping us to keep providing us with stuff to sanitize, because it was a very difficult run, having to sanitize after every trip, you know, having to take out your clothes in your veranda when you reach home after every trip, head into the shower. You know, it was, looking at it now, it looks a little bit relaxed, but I don't think people understand that pressure that these busmen been through, you know. So to the busmen, I salute you. Guys, the service is terminated, but you did a splendid job. Well done. You would have made your contribution. And to the public, I just want to say thanks and continue to support us. And to Grenada in general, this is COVID-19. I pray and hope that we don't have a relapse and we don't have to ever go back to where we came from. Let's take this period cautiously. Let's be very careful. Let's adhere to the social distancing. Let's wear our masks and let's go forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. And thank you to the media houses that took the time to be here with us this morning. Thank you to the general public for taking your time to sit, listen, and understand what is happening now with the transportation system here on the island. Thank you for all of your comments, the positives and negatives. You know, every comment is necessary in the building of our industry. So to this end, and I must say thank you as well to Mr. Nichols of the Grand Anse Distillers, Clark's Court, for meeting with us last week and initiating a possible partnership with that company as a means of providing sanitization or sanitizers to our operators. So once again, thank you guys on the panel. Thank you to the media houses. And we hope that from this engagement today, we will be seeing positive movements going forward for our public transportation service. Thank you guys. Have yourself a great day.